I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to live from hand to mouth. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the still calm of utopia. I will never cower before any master, nor bend to any threat. It's my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to face the world boldly and say, I did this, I did this. This is my dream.
When I'm talking, because I ask them to ask themselves those questions, and that's the answer. Well, what's meaningful? Well, I have a meaningful relationship with my father. I have a meaningful relationship with my wife. When I commit to something and make sacrifices, you know, if something's valuable, you'll make sacrifices to attain it. That discovery of sacrifice, I think that's what separates it's one of the primary factors separating human beings from animals. Because we discovered that we could let go of something we value in the present, and we would gain something we value even more in the future. We acted that out dramatically in all sorts of strange ways over thousands and thousands of years before it was formalizable psychologically. But it's a massive discovery. I can forego gratification in a particular way and benefit in the future. So I can share the proceeds of my hunt, and I store up future food in the form of reputation and the favors I'm owed now by other people. It's a massive discovery.
A lot of us dream big. You should dream big. Dreaming big is important. You know, some of us want to be doctors, lawyers, dentists. So you have this big dream, you can see it so clearly, like it's right in front of you, you can go out and touch it. But the thing about it is somewhere, if you dream big enough, somewhere down that journey, that dream becomes a nightmare. And what happens in that nightmare, you start to have all these questions, like you may start to fail tests, and all these questions start to flood your mind. Why am I here? I'm not good enough. Trust me, I know all about the questions. They will flood your mind. If you do not have the answers for them, you will quit. The answers lie in the repetitions. You must not forget the repetitions you put into trying to dominate the craft that you're in today. Always, always embrace the suck, adapt to the suck.
Being on the cause to make yourself unstoppable, to get out of your mind the polluting negative thoughts that's causing most people to go through life being stuck because they're volunteer victims. Somebody said that many people die at age 25 and don't get buried until they're 65 because they got so much garbage in their minds.
Question is, what do you believe? Do you believe that you are worthy of happiness? Do you believe that happiness, success, abundance, comfort, fulfillment, peace, joy, love is a part of your birthright? Is that what you believe, or do you believe something else? Because you will manifest the life that you believe.
These successful people, whether they're taught it like we teach it, or they just know how to do it automatically, they do it. They feel fear, and then they release that fear and they take action anyway. So they can turn their fear into fuel is one of the things that we teach people how to do. Turn your fear into your fuel. And when you turn your fear into your fuel in a calm, centered way,
the underlying presupposition there is that in our phenomenological landscape, so that's the world as we experience it, complete with emotions and motivations and dreams, and so the full range of human experience, including the subjective and the objective, let's say, can broadly be broken into two domains. And one is the domain of things that are beyond our grasp and reach, and that's the unknown. The unknown emerges. When the unknown emerges, you tend to experience anxiety. And then there's the known, and I define the known very specifically and very carefully. The known is the place you are when what you're doing produces the results you want. And I say want because that brings motivation and emotion into the game. So you're motivated to pursue something. You pursue it, and what you want happens. Not only do you get what you want, but you get validation for the structure that governs your perceptions and your actions.
Here's what do it anyway has done for me. The idea that I just do it anyway has pushed me to realize and to recognize that there are a lot of moments when there are things in my life that I really want to do, I need to do, I should do, but when the moment comes, I don't feel like it. And so I pull out this idea of, you know what, I'm just gonna do it anyway. It's raining outside, I said I would go for a short run, I don't feel like it, I'm gonna do it anyway. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm tired, it's cold, what do? I do it anyway. When you start to say to yourself, I'm gonna do it anyway, what happens is something really cool. You acknowledge that there are feelings that you have that are trying to swoop in and hijack you. You acknowledge them and you basically say, guess what? I'm gonna do it anyway.
Well, we gotta understand what's happening. You think on frequencies. Now this has to do with goals. When you set a goal, you have to flip your brain onto the frequency that the good that you desire or that you need for that goal is there. So most people don't make the decision because they don't know how to get it. You don't have to know how to get it, the will to do it. You're gonna make the decision. You don't make the decision when you've got enough money or when you've got all the resources. You make the decision. When you make the decision, you flip your brain onto a higher frequency, and then you're on the frequency, you begin to attract everything on that frequency. That's where the law of attraction comes in.
I think that the people that are discovering how to unleash their greatness are people who have the mental resiliency and the courage to face failure, that you will fail your way to greatness. That most people allow their fear of failure, 80%, allow their fear of failure to outweigh their desire to succeed. When you're willing to fail again and again and again, when you make up your mind to become unstoppable, when you make up your mind to become a no matter what person, then that will then give birth to a part of yourself that you don't know right now.
No one's coming back to help me. So it starts with that person in that mirror. You have to realize you are on your own now. And whatever else you believe in, I don't care what you believe in, but on earth, it's a very lonely journey. And it starts with the accountability mirror of looking at saying, hey, all these things are coming back. I have to face myself. And you have to own all those things that people may have done to you. Now it's yours. You got to own it. And it's yours now to fix the problems that people did to you. It makes no sense. It's not fair. I get it. But if you live in that woe is me mentality of guess what? My dad did this to me. My mom did this to me. People who bully did this to me. You're gonna always live right there. You have to figure out ways to move forward because you're not coming back.
Indiscriminate. Only when your attention and involvement is indiscriminate does the universe open up to you. Because life is happening because of its openness. This is a fundamental difference between death and life is, people are thinking it's just breath, all right, on one level. That is also openness. Whether you allow this to happen or you don't allow it to happen. Whether you did it consciously or unconsciously, but it's happening, isn't it? Openness is on every subatomic particle, is in communication with everything. That's why this is going on. Breath is happening, so much is happening in connection with everything. It is only in openness you're alive. As you close doors, you're dying in installments.
If I live within my mind in a place of inadequacy, let's take one that's very common for people, like I'm not enough somehow, right? Like I'm not young enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not wealthy enough, whatever it is, I'm not good enough, then that becomes like this sort of linguistic prison that somebody lives within. Now that is going to create frustration, dis-ease, the absence of ease, and then that cascades into the physicality. So the subtle level is the mind, and then that manifests in the body. Like I am depressed. Like it's inaccurate. It's I know that's how they feel, but it's not who they are. And so I like to create separation so that you can sort of disentangle yourself from these deeper seated beliefs of inadequacy, insecurity, and scarcity. So that's where, for me, most people are doing everything they can to obviously have a vital life, to be well, to be healthy. But if you don't change the relationship you have with yourself and your subconscious and your mind, it's all for now, as far as I'm concerned. Like at best, you're going to get transitory relief. You know, you're basically becoming the best version of your limited self.
The problem with passion, you know, people gave me the same stupid advice. Do what you love. Thank you. Thanks. You know, find your passion. Thank you. Like, what am I supposed to do with that advice? Right. You know? And what I learned is that passion, like profit, is a result. When we commit ourselves to some higher purpose, some higher cause, passion is the result. When we work hard for something we don't believe in, it's called stress. When we work hard for something we do believe in, it's called passion. Passion is not the entry point, it's at the exit point. So the question is not to find your passion or find the thing you're passionate about. The question is, what do you believe? The question is, what are your ideals? What are your values? And where are the places in which those people or those organizations share your values, share your beliefs? Who is articulating a vision of a world that you would like to live in? Push yourself in those directions, be around those people, you know, align yourself with those organizations, and what you will find is you show up every day with passion.
I'm not the type of guy who sits in my house meditating 24 hours a day and expect things to come to me. I'm a pragmatist. I'm a practical person. I'm going to take value in information, I'm going to apply it and see if I can gain more value from it. So the message is not to sit and meditate and just receive universal love and do nothing else. Because my message is to not disengage in life, but to fully engage in life. That's my message.
The only way that you're going to overcome that stuff is to go all out every day, knowing that it's going to take a long time. But the only way that that dream is going to come true, even over that long period of time, is if you're going all out every day. So literally, a mantra in my life, and I cannot stress this enough. This is a cornerstone of why I've been able to achieve at the level that I've been able to achieve. Every day, everything I'm doing, I'm asking, why can't it be done faster? Why can't I accomplish more right now? That it's not okay to put something off even till tonight. I need to do it right now. Now, you need to get very good at prioritizing, because if you're trying to do everything right now, you're going to accomplish nothing. And if you're trying to be gimmicky or do shortcuts, all of that's going to fail, because none of that is playing the long game. But if ever you're allowing yourself to slow down because you simply are acknowledging that this stuff takes time, I'm telling you, it's never going to work. You've got to go all out. You've got to create momentum.
Crossing that river of change from the old self to the new self, there's a neurological, a biological, a chemical, a hormonal, a genetic death of the old self. But if you teach people there's something on the other side, they won't give up on themselves. Once they start getting beyond themselves and that magic starts to happen, then I have no idea, I can't predict what's going to happen next. And it's usually pretty exciting.
I'll give you one because this one is profoundly impactful. You're more likely to believe something negative than you are something positive. Now think about how that can echo through your life. Each of us has to realize that all of the beliefs that we have in our life are choices. The scary part about the most important beliefs in your life is most of them are invisible.
No one's going to do anything for you. A couple rules of being a real leader. You need to take responsibility for your own life. Nobody owes you anything, but you owe other people everything. That's what a leader does. You take responsibility. You know exactly right now what you're not doing. You know exactly what you're afraid of. You know exactly what you've been avoiding, and you got to make a decision to change it. You know exactly what it is. Don't BS anybody. You know what you need to do different. You know the changes you need to make. And if you can do that, you stop kidding yourself, you can win. You can overcome your fear, overcome procrastination, whatever that is.
Complain all you want, vent all you want, you just earned that. But at some point, you're gonna have to stop feeding the monster and putting poison in your own mind, and you're gonna have to teach yourself how to start to find milestones that are positive so that you can become healthier, so that you can change how you think.
But most of us take the choice that makes us feel good. It means I want to check off every single box of all the possibilities of what I'm supposed to be in life. Leave nothing to question in my life.
What I think about internally, the thing that warms my soul, is I think about the people out there that are extraordinary. They could do something amazing with their lives, but they won't because they don't believe in themselves. Figure out what that thing is, that huge goal that you have, why you want it, because chances are that you're going to be able to do it in smaller ways along the way. If it makes you feel heavy, daunted, and terrified to pursue it because you're obsessing over the end goal, it's some like traditional marker of success, money, a big company, whatever, and not how you want to help people, then it's just a matter of reframing. If, on the other hand, it's because you think you're supposed to want that thing, but you don't actually want it, and so the idea of pursuing it and all that you would have to do to get there is just horrifying to you, then yes, you've picked the wrong goal. Just remember, don't chase something because people have told you that you should want it. Literally just look at what gives you more energy than it takes.
You need a pathway. You need to know, you need to have a map, and you need to know where you're located on the map, and you need to know how you're moving forward. And that gives you hope because you're moving towards goals that you regard as worthwhile. And it stops you from being anxious because you're not entirely directionless and lost. And so learning how to manage your time is useful. And you could start with a calendar. You could start with simple things like you could put in, well, when you're likely to go to bed and when you're likely to get up. And regulating that's useful. That should be relatively ritualistically consistent.
And nobody changes until they change their energy. And when you change your energy, you change your life. You just disconnected from the energy of your future. You got to be greater than the conditions in your environment. You got to maintain that state of being. You got to be greater than the habits and emotions of your body. And you got to sustain it for an extended period of time. So when you no longer are identifying with your body, your environment, and time, that's the moment you're pure consciousness. So then, if the brain can change, then the mind doesn't change the brain. Mind is the brain in action. It's consciousness that changes it. So when people begin to disengage and get beyond themselves, you are at your absolute best when you get beyond yourself. They reach that generous present moment where they just feel connected.
It's all about the reasoning. You can do anything you like, but it's why are you doing it?
We have fat set points, we have financial set points, we have relationship set points. We have these set points that we become accustomed to achieving. And then all of the supporting evidence, the stories, the themes, the plot lines, the perceptions and behaviors all must match the set point. And so you can ask yourself two questions. Number one is, how did that set point get there? And then how do I change it? Right? So how it got there is through all of your conditioning, through what you've read, what you've done, what you've experienced, what you've been told, what you've seen. All of that is created based on your story. And so the first thing to recognize is the set point can be changed. And the question is how? What drives behavior more than anything else? It's not skill, it's not knowledge. Skill and knowledge is potential power, but what does drive behavior more than anything else is beliefs. And so if there is a belief in the brain that says, yes, I think I'm capable of achieving double my income, but there's another belief that opposes that causes what we know as neural dissonance. So it creates a chaotic vibration in the brain between the conscious and non-conscious mind. So the key is to get alignment between the new goal, which is a conscious pattern of thought that you can choose in an instant, and the non-conscious part of the brain around that goal.
View myself as the weakest person on the planet Earth. My goal in life was to, in my mind, believe I'm the hardest man alive. And that's why the whole thing is can't hurt me. That's what it's about. It's about whatever you think you are, you have to make that dream a reality. But that's where the hard part is making that dream reality.
So how do you develop a belief, right? So it's a pattern. So if I gave you a sentence and you said that sentence one time, you probably, great, it'd be a sentence like one. It was like hearing a line in a song one time. But if you heard a line in a song repeatedly, 20, 30, 40, 50 times, and you had other associations with that to reinforce that pattern, then you would start to develop a non-conscious pattern through that. So we know that using, let's say, visualization, you're actually bypassing the conscious mind and you're accessing the visual cortex of the brain. It's a non-conscious process, the visual processor. And so if we take words and we affirm them and we feel them and we visualize them and repeat them 100, 200, 500, 1,000 times, now we start to create a pattern at the non-conscious level that basically reinforces a conscious desire.
Can't hurt me. I want people to have that mantra in their life. Take that with you. Take it everywhere you go in life. And if you believe that and you work towards that, callous in your mind, strengthen yourself, can't hurt me is strong. But you say that enough to you. False motivation becomes real motivation after a while.
And the problem with all this is that when you do it habitually, or when you complain as just a default mode and you don't realize how much you're doing it, you're allowing your mind to filter the world a certain way, and you're allowing yourself to live an existence where your own thoughts are poisonous.
Life and society made this big world with all these endless possibilities. Endless possibilities. My life made my possibilities this big because it made me afraid of all these different things. So all this stuff trapped my mind, it shackled my brain, it made me a prisoner within my own self, saying this is all I can do. Because why? I'm afraid of this, I'm insecure over here, I got self-doubt over here, that behind me. Good Lord, who knows what's behind me? I'm gonna look behind me. So your life is this big. Versus it being like, I can do all this shit out here if I start to break down these these different walls and barriers. Because I was afraid. But you overcome those fears, guess what happens? The whole world, you unlock this door and everything opens back up again.
As long as we are on this planet, you're going through two things. You're going through recovery and discovery. Recovery of our past, recovery of what we're dealing with right now, and then discovery. Identity is a key, because if we don't know who we are, we're gonna be chasing our identity for our whole life. And so I believe that when you find out where you came from, who you are, and what your purpose is, you cannot be stopped. And it's this whole idea of you've been born an original, don't die a copy. But my challenge is that what my true identity was not true.
For the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about you. I want you to just think about you for a moment. I want you to think about your life. I want you to think about how you're living versus how you'd really like to live.
When you set goals, when you have an intention on something that you want to change about your life, your brain helps you. What it does is it opens up a checklist, and then your brain goes to work trying to remind you. And I say that word purposefully, the skill of knowing how to hear that inner wisdom and that intention kicking in and leaning into it quickly.
I could not undo these things. Isn't that why it's so difficult for you to make changes in your life? Because you think that things can't be undone? The fact is, any excuse that you come up with, you can undo. Tuition can be reimbursed, apartments can be leased, Plan B can be invented. So I got up, I repacked that U-Haul, and I drove out of town. I let myself make a U-turn in life.
You got to aim at something. It's like, otherwise your life is meaningless. Well, what should you aim at? Well, I don't know. Well, pick something. Pick something. Aim at it. As you move toward it, you'll get wiser. Then maybe your aim will change. That's okay. But at least it'll change in an informed way. It's like discipline yourself in one dimension. See what happens. That's exciting. And I think that's something that's open for everyone. You can do that. I shouldn't say that, because I don't believe that. I think you can find yourself in a situation that's so dire that there's no escape from it. But that doesn't matter, because the hero myth might not be, the best we have might not always work. But it's still the best we have. And the fact that it might not work doesn't mean we should throw it away. It's still the best we have. I mean, everyone dies, and so we fail in some sense. The fact that a symphony ends doesn't mean that it wasn't worth listening to.
If you ever find your gut battling your head, save yourself the drama. I guarantee you your gut is right. Guarantee you your excuses can be undone. And I guarantee you can make a U-turn in your life right now if you want to.
Desire is there. Again, it's about how do you go from knowledge to action. So the first thing in this story that's important is realizing that the answer was in me. And my mind was telling me, pay attention. Because remember, your brain is wired to stop you from doing things that are uncomfortable or uncertain or scary. It's your job to learn how to move from those ideas that could change everything into acting on them.
Everyone visualizes, whether he realizes it or not. Visualization is one of the great secrets of success. That's where we build a picture in our mind. When Van Gogh was asked, how do you do such beautiful work? He said, I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream. Well, that's the way it works. Solomon said, where there is no vision, the people will perish. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to die. It just means their results are going to get weaker and weaker and weaker, and they're just not going to be making happen the way they want to. Everyone visualizes, whether he realizes it or not. Visualization is a great secret to success, and it intensifies your wisdom and enables you to make use of advantages you formerly failed to recognize.
I think, everything starts with a thought. I mean, everything that you do in your life, you have to have a thought before you initiate an action, right? So if you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, like any great leader in history understands that, the first thing you have to do is you have to decide, are you going to be defined by a vision of the future, or are you going to live by the memories of the past?
You know, it's harsh that the rewards of life are indiscriminately distributed, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help to become bitter.
Most people wake up in the morning and your brain is a record of the past. It's an artifact of everything you've learned and experienced to this moment, right? It's a memory bank. So most people wake up in the morning and they start thinking about their problems, and those problems are connected to certain people and things at certain times and places. And the moment they start turning on those circuits, those memories are actually causing them to think in the past. Every single one of those memories has an emotion associated with them, and emotions are the end product of past experiences. So then the moment they recall the event, or they recall some problem in their life, they start feeling unhappy, they start feeling discouraged, they start feeling anxious. Now, thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body, and how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So we could say that most people's entire state of being when they start their day is in the familiar past. Well, if you live in the familiar past, then it makes sense you're going to create the predictable future.
There isn't a better way to live your life. There's no right way and wrong way. There is only the way that gives you more energy. There is only the way that gives you fulfillment. When you have those things, when you're fulfilled by what you're doing and it's giving you, the harder you pursue it, it's giving you more energy, you're on the right path. As the Greeks would say, segolodromo, which means you're on a good road. And that's what I want people to understand. But I don't think that it is a universal path. And so the only universal path is to do the things that give you fulfillment and energy. So if spending time with your friends gives you that, then you should be spending more time with your friends. If dating gives you that, then you should be dating. So you don't need to want to be the best in the world at something. You don't need to want to make a lot of money. You don't need to want to be an entrepreneur. They're literally just stand-ins. They're proxies for fulfillment and energy creation. That's it. So those are the punchlines of what's the meaning of life and all of that stuff. It is to do something that makes you feel a deep sense of well-being, which I'll call fulfillment, and something that gives you energy, where you're literally excited to attack the day.
I start with identities because I think that's the root of all our challenges, is starting at the root, not starting at the symptoms or the superficial or the surface level, but let's go to the root. If you're playing a role, if you're wearing a mask, if you're dressed in clothes that are not yours, then you end up living a life that's not yours. Because guess what? When you fake being someone for so long, you think it's your reality. And that's what happens to all of us. We play a role at work, we play a role at home, we play a role with our family, we play a role with our friends, and then we think that role is us. And we lose ourselves. And to me, that is the core reason why we're chasing things that are not important to us.
A lot of you that are running from things instead of running to things. And that's a huge difference, running from something versus running to something. And so I want you to think about that for a minute, because you don't have to move across country to change your life. And you don't have to do something drastic to experience drastic positive change. And here's the thing about running away from your problems, running away from your past. Have you ever noticed that when you run away, it tends to follow you?
All we have, which everybody talks about, is this moment, this precious second right now. So the more I could be here right now, the more I'm living, the life that I want to live. Too much about the future, too much about the past. I can use those as something to, hope for in the future, as a guiding post from the past. But right now is the moment that every one of us has.
I never really aspired to happy because happy is usually determined by external factors. I go for the joy. Because when you have joy at home, when you have joy inside, it don't matter much what's going on out here. You understand? You got your joy. And you can come home to your joy no matter what is going on in the world. Far too many of us have our happiness, our peace, our joy, our value, our worth hooked into some external stimulation. And then we wonder why we're stressed out and overweight and can't sleep.
You have those scars in your brain from life, but what we don't do is we try to hide those scars. We don't want to go back and revisit it. So I started realizing that my life was causing a whole bunch of scarring on my brain. And I had to go back and really break open that scar and let it bleed. And that was a very painful journey for me to go back.
Who are you letting ruin your dreams? What scorecard are you judging yourself by? Screw that. This is your time. This is your opportunity. This new world that we live in with access like you listening to me right now, access to so much knowledge. We have access to information. This is your time. There's no better time. There's no different time. This is your time. The only way it'll happen is if you change the story in your head. If you say, change the scorecard, change your desires, find your passion. When people tell you stop dreaming, tell them, I'm sorry you gave up on yours. I'm not quite there yet. That's the response you need to share.
Every day I'm winning. Every day I'm winning the other voice in my head. So I'm at peace with myself. The things I do for fun are like me bettering myself. Yeah. But I also love accomplishing and overcoming myself every day. Because every day is a battle. Every day is a battle because your mind wants to choose the path of least resistance. Every day. But you don't become better by ever doing that. You become normal. And I don't want to be normal. So it may not be a life for everybody, but I find a lot of peace in not being normal in my life.
Dreams without goals are just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. Goals on the road to achievement cannot be achieved without discipline and consistency.
As Shakespeare noted, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. There's nothing good or bad, right? There's just stimulus and then there's response. But people think that it is objectively a certain way. So now because they think it is objectively a certain way, they feel they are supposed to react based on those emotions that are getting kicked up in their mind. If you want to always be moving towards your goal, you want to be optimized, you got to learn to get control of your emotions. You've got to learn to understand to tell yourself a narrative that isn't predicated on necessarily identifying what is objectively true, because I don't think that we experience the world that way. It's identifying what's going to work to get me to my goal.
Your joy, your sadness, your happiness, your misery is determined by something or somebody around you. The chances of you being joyful in your life is remote. Is it true that human experience joy or misery, agony or ecstasy, madness or sanity, everything is created from inside? At least if you're a manager, if you're going to be a manager, at least what is happening from within you must happen your way. Because essentially management means having situations the way we want it. Yes? Management means what? Having situations the way we want it. Well, if the world is not happening your way, at least this one must be happening your way, otherwise what kind of management is this?
I want to convince you that the human brain is a naturally creative instrument. It is designed for making connections between ideas, for envisioning DEF and beyond. It wants to go in that direction. Creativity is not a function of some freakish genetic wiring that occurs in the brains of a few people. It is instead the function of awakening and exploiting the natural creative energy we all possess. Well, highly creative people have both. They have the knowledge and the experience, plus the mental fluidity, which gives them the ability to see more possibilities in the world around them and to maximize, to realize to its fullest, the natural connecting power of the human brain.
You know, it's really identifying who someone is at their core, and starting from that place, it can be really confusing. I think it's always a discovery process, but I think we have to define moments in our life. You know, that's kind of a helpful framework, is to figure out what are the times in our life when we felt completely connected and in the moment. When did we feel like we were rooted in what I would call a spiritual experience? That wasn't outcome-based, that wasn't based upon making a bunch of money, but was based about being in this beautiful moment and going, gosh, I'm exactly where I need to be and this is who I am. So I find it's helpful for people to first figure out what are those moments. And that starts to create a framework for someone realizing, okay, those moments, I can kind of describe who I am.
Is it terribly obvious to me what you are working on, what skills you're trying to develop, what projects you're trying to complete, to stretch yourself, to grow yourself? Or is every day another reaction day? Because listen, if every day is another reaction day, you are in a fixed mindset. Write it down. If every day is another reaction day, you're in a fixed mindset. You stop believing in big projects that would require you to schedule stuff out. You stopped thinking, what skills must I master to grow? Because you're just trying to handle all the problems. Remember, you're stuck in one signal of problems.
Challenges are what really grow us. You know, your life is a great story. You know, every person's life is a story. The question is, some people's story is a warning, some people's story is an example. Right now, you're an example that's growing and expanding, and you have a chance to have this be the most incredible life. But it won't be a life without challenge. And the challenges we're facing right now give you an opportunity to grow like very few generations. If you watch a great movie, if you read a great book, you know, the size and the power of the hero, how much you become as a hero is defined by how tough an obstacle you face, how difficult is the villain, the opponent. And so sometimes when I've been through the toughest times of my life, one of the questions I've had to ask myself or note to myself is, I finally have a really worthy opponent. This is scaring the hell out of me, or this is challenging me, or this is making me crazy. But I also know in my gut and in my soul that if I can push through, it's just like you've done in these years. You push through tough times, I'm sure, many of them. But as you push through those, you become more. As you become more, something magical happens. You don't just grow. You expand spirit and your soul and your capacity and your skill. And all of a sudden, fear becomes less and less a part of you.
If you're going to be uncomfortable, your reward has to be big. So if you're going to be making a change, ask yourself, why is what I want to achieve so important to me? Why am I willing to use my new willpower and persistence? And why am I willing to go through the discomfort of change? Why am I willing to listen to the negative talk that I have or the emotion that I have and still do it anyway? And if you don't have a big enough reason, the first time you have a chance for an excuse, you'll take it. Or they say, you know what, I'm not happy in my relationship. And 2 weeks later, they're back with the same person, or they find another person just like the one that they left. Or people are afraid to leave their jobs because they don't like the discomfort of change. Well, the only certain thing in the universe, the only constant is change. Everything that's the only constant in the universe, it's an oxymoron. It's like, how can change be the only constant, the only stable thing? Because everything's changing. So why not acquire the skill to be comfortable in change? The meaning that I give, remember I said you have to reframe things? The meaning I give things now is when I'm uncomfortable, I'm changing and I'm growing. And then so we go through these waves of comfort and change, and that's just like the waves of life.
The moment of willingness and the moment of trusting in the universe. Like people talk about rock bottom. I mean, that's just a moment. Like you could always go lower. To me, a rock bottom is a moment of being spiritually deflated, defeated, essentially hating your life. And it can always go a bit lower. But there's always a window. I feel like the universe, from my experience, creates a window if you do want to change. If you do want help, a window is created. Now, it may not be the window you want, and it may not be the fabulous straits that you want to open up, but there'll be a window because all of a sudden your mindset is believing there's a window and it believes that you can change. And I just think there's always that opening.
Courage courage means to take heart. It's an awareness that life is on your side, that love always wins, that peace always wins, that joy always wins, because the higher frequencies are way more powerful than hate and disinterest and resentment and animosity and pseudo-control, false authority. Love always wins in the universal scheme of things. So with that, we take heart. We have a level of courage, and we have to have the courage to opt out of the old paradigm. You have to ask yourself on a regular basis, what am I doing as I'm opting out of the old? What am I doing?